Hey, this is Greg, and in this tutorial we're talking about the newly improved Magic Grab tool inside of Canva. Where is it, how do you use it, and is it any good? So we'll talk about that. Obviously, we'll talk about what those new improvements are, and then I'll show you some of my favorite ways to use this tool, some ways you can get really cool results, and then I'll also cover some of the shortcomings of this tool because it certainly isn't perfect. And if you make it all the way to the end, they also have some really cool Canva freebies, and I'll tell you how you get those at the end of this video. So if all that sounds good, let's go ahead and let's dive in. Okay, let's start with the basics. Where do you find the Magic Grab tool in Canva, and how does it work? Well, the Magic Grab tool works on photos. So first of all, you have to have a photo in your design. And then with any photo selected and you see the blue outline around your photo, then you can use the Magic Grab tool. Now you're going to do that by coming up to the edit menu first. Now I have the Canva glow up, the sort of new Canva user interface turned on. So I have this floating bar. You might see edit image up in the left, but either way, you're going to go ahead and click on that edit option. And then you're going to get to these sub menus here. Again, your menu might be on the left if you still have that old user interface. I have it over here on the right. And then under Magic Studio Tools, you're going to look for this Magic Grab icon with the hot air balloon. It's going to say Magic Grab. And again, this is a pro Canva feature. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this now. And now we have two options. So they updated this tool when it first came out. You didn't have these additional options. So we have a brush option and we have a click option. Let's talk about this click option first. So what it's going to do first is analyze your photo. It's going to find anything it thinks is a subject that it can select in the photo. And then as you hover over your photo, anything that it has sort of identified as a subject, you're going to see this sort of purpley blue overlay. And when this overlay is highlighted, that's something you can click on and select and then tell it you want to grab that item. So I'll click here on the woman here. And now once I do that, the grab becomes highlighted in blue here. And now I can click grab and it's going to go ahead and grab the subject. So this works different from the background eraser. When you use the background eraser, another pro Canva feature, it just attempts to find your subject, remove the background. But with the grab tool, it's attempting to find your subject, remove your subject from the background, but it keeps the background and it attempts to fill in those pixels where your subject existed. So now I can actually grab, now that I've done the Magic Grab, I've made it, I've grabbed it, I can actually move it and I can see that it went ahead and filled in these background pixels. And if I come down now to my position menu, so my position menu here where I can see my layers and my layers menu here. So I go into my layers menu and yes, I can see that now I have a separate layer for the background, what was the photo, and now it's just a background layer. And then my subject is completely on a separate layer, meaning I can move her around, I can resize or reposition her. So this really is cool. And this is sort of the magic part of the Magic Grab. You can grab something, you can reposition it in your photo, which opens up a lot of possibilities. Now let's look at another example. That first photo really only had one subject. What happens here where we have a subject that has 4 individuals, so 4 different subjects? What happens now if we try Magic Grab on this photo? So again, coming under the edit menu, then under Magic Studio here, we're looking for this Magic Grab. I'm going to click on Magic Grab, and then you sort of see it flash the preview once it finds those different subjects. And again, with this click option highlighted here, you can scroll around the different subjects, and then suddenly you're going to see the different ones highlight, and you can select any of them by clicking on it. So I could click on this one here, and then if I shift click, you can actually select the multiple objects. So you can do as many as you want at one time. So I could shift click and select 3 of these if I wanted to select these 3 individuals. Now if I shift click again on one that's already selected, then it's going to deselect it. So you can select and deselect all these subjects that Canva goes in with its AI and finds. In this case, I just want to select this one individual here because I'm going to reposition him in the photo. So again, once you have what you want highlighted and you've done that selection, then you can go ahead and click this grab option. The grab option will be highlighted. Again, now it's going to attempt to remove that subject and then also replace those background pixels. So it's going to remove the subject, put it up on its own layer above the photo, and then you can sort of work on the photo and the individual or subject you selected separately. So again, just double checking. If we go down here to the position menu, we'll see that now for some reason I find that right after I do it, this position menu doesn't open up correctly. So sometimes you might have to click off, just come back to position, and then we can see, okay, here's my position menu. And yes, it is on a separate layer. And so now I can just grab this, and maybe I wanted him to be standing over here in front of this individual over here. So you fool around and suddenly you do now suddenly have these additional options because of this magic grab feature. Now, this ability to select the multiple subjects, this is new, and this is an advantage over the background eraser, because the background eraser is really only going to find one sort of main subject. Even if there are multiple individuals, it might call them all one main subject. But with this grab tool, suddenly you can select discrete elements within your photo, so it does have its advantages. Let's work through a couple more examples. Okay, let's look at this photo. So if I click on this photo, we're going to do the same thing where we go under Edit and again choose this magic grab tool. Now, we can see it flash those things that Canva found as subjects. The issue is that Canva's not always going to get it perfect. In this image, it identified the woman itself, but it looks like maybe it's left out her coffee cup, or actually it has that as a separate subject. Each of these books is a subject. And again, you can click one, and then if I wanted to get that coffee cup, also shift click to get both of those. It has some background elements it's selected, but it did not get this lamp. So what if this lamp was what I was actually concerned about selecting and moving? That's something that the Canva AI did not find. But that's where now suddenly with this tool, we have more control, because a new option we did not have in the past is this brush option. So we can go from click here, and this is where Canva is going to automatically find things. You click, you shift click to add to the selection. But now with this brush option, you can actually come in and tell it exactly what you want to define. Now, I'm going to go back to click for a second because I have this selected. I'm just going to shift click to make sure I don't have anything selected. Then I'm going to come under the brush options. So in other words, you can use these in concert where you click something and then you add to it with the brush, but we're just going to use this brush option now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to try to select this lamp here. So I'm going to come up, and you can use this over here to resize your brush, make it bigger, make it smaller. You definitely want to cover all your subject. You don't want to go way beyond it, but sometimes going a little bit beyond it can be good. It sort of depends, and you have to experiment around to see what works best for any given photo. But I'm going to try something like this. I'm not going to be too fine about it, but we're just going to go in and make sure we get all of that. And now we're going to see what kind of job it does. So we have that all selected now. We define the selection. That's the really cool part about doing this brush option. You're defining the subject you want to select. And so we're going to go ahead and click this grab option. Canva is going to go ahead and work, and then we'll see how it does. Okay, so it has grabbed the lamp. I can grab it now. I can move it around. We can see it did do actually a really good job of grabbing this lamp. Now, it's not perfect up here, so that might be something I want to try again. I want to redefine my selection. I might want to tinker around with. But it did do a good job here filling in the background, I think, so I can't really tell that this wasn't the original background in some of these places. And this is going to be hit or miss. It's not always going to do a perfect job. And so again here, maybe I would come on here and use the magic eraser and try to get rid of some of these extra things on this lamp. So you can combine this with other tools. It's not always going to be perfect, but then suddenly I do have a lamp where if I wanted to move this around, have it in a different part of the photo, or just get rid of it altogether, I can do that. So this is a nice feature that you can come in here and you can use the magic grab tool, and you can use that brush option on the magic grab tool to define the subject if it's not a subject that the Canva AI found on its own. Okay, now that we understand, how you use it, what are some good uses for it? What are some ways to get some easy wins with this tool? Well, let's go over a few examples. So we saw this example here before, and this was the original position of the subject. And so maybe we're trying to put copy in here, and yeah, we can move it around, but maybe we really don't have the right spacing. So then using that magic grab tool, you remember we slid her to the left. And so suddenly we have all this space on the right of our design for the copy, whatever the sort of advertisement or text we want to put in our images. And so this is really a great use for the magic grab tool, one of my favorite uses of the tool. Just an easy way to move a subject slightly, whatever you need to do, that suddenly you have space there for text, space for copy. So this is the first great way you can use this magic grab tool. To look at another good use of the magic grab tool, let's look at this photo right here. So we have the hummingbird here and we have the flower here. This is all one photo, but maybe I want to improve the composition or at least play around with it. So playing around with composition to make a photo more interesting is another way you can use this magic grab tool. So I'm going to click on this and again come in here and find this background remover. So again, excuse me, not the background remover, but the magic grab tool. So we'll come in here and we can see by default, originally when I do this, it's only finding the hummingbird. It's not finding the flower. Now we'll get to that in a minute, but for now I will just go ahead and choose this hummingbird. We're going to go ahead and grab this hummingbird, and it's going to cut out the hummingbird, bring it up to its own layer, and again, attempt to replace those background pixels. So we'll let it go ahead and do that, and then we'll be able to sort of move the hummingbird around everywhere we want. And so give it another second, it's done that. So now if I want to position this closer to the flower, I can. Now if I move it up here, you know, a hummingbird, if he's sort of going for the nectar inside of this flower here, the pollen inside this flower, he's really going to have sort of his proboscis or whatever you call his beak here inside of this flower. So I don't want it to appear in front. I sort of want it to look like it's going into the flower. So to do that, I would have to have this flower on its own layer. Now, I know I can do that now by using the brush tool, but actually since this is now a separate photo from this, if I click on this now, the photo now that just has the flower no longer has this hummingbird, and now I do the magic grab tool again, and now I come in here, I think it might actually find this flower now since we've removed it, and we can see, yes, it did. Now, if it didn't find it, I could also just use the brush tool and brush it in, but since it did find it, I'll go ahead and use this click option. We'll click on it, and we'll go ahead and grab it. Now, this is where you can use something like this to put multiple objects on multiple different layers, which is cool because then you can control what shows up in front of what. If I just left this flower as part of this green background, then there's no way I would be able to put the hummingbird behind it. But since I've moved it around here now, and since I can come in now and look at my position menu here, I can see if I actually close out of this for a second. Again, sometimes you just have to close out of it, come back to this position, and now I can see that, okay, so now I have the flower and the hummingbird on its own separate layer, and so I could move the hummingbird up here, and we can see that now that the flower is on its own layer, it's actually in front of the hummingbird, so I could position him something like this and make it look like, okay, maybe he's actually putting his nose there right inside of the flower. And of course, now I also have the ability to come in here if I want to make things a little smaller. I can do that because now I have independent control over these subjects in the background, and that is really the magic of it. So maybe I do something like that just so it makes it a little bit more like he's feeding on the flower. So this is another cool use of this magic grab tool. You can grab individual elements. It just lets you play with the photo composition a little bit more. So again, try it out. Cool way to use the magic grab tool. Okay, let's look at another way you can make use of the magic grab tool. So far, we've basically been looking at single photos, but maybe sometimes you want elements of multiple photos, and that's another way you can use this magic grab tool. So let's say in here, I like this bee here, but I'm not loving this flower, and maybe for whatever I'm working on, I think this image of this flower is going to work a little bit better. So let's see how we can sort of combine elements of these together, again, using this magic grab tool. So we'll come in here on this one here, we're going to go into Edit. Again, we'll do this magic grab option, and we're just going to let it find the bee here. Now again, it's not going to find it by itself because it's finding the bee and the flower together. So I will take advantage of this brush, maybe fool with my size, lower it down a little bit for these legs here just to be a little bit more precise, sort of go along the edges a little bit. Go along up here, but then I can probably make my brush a little bit bigger. So let's make the brush bigger and come in here. And again, you may have to fool around a little bit just to see what brush size is appropriate, but we're going around in here and we will select this bee, and then we will see if we can remove that from the background. So we're going to do that. We're going to click grab, let the AI go to work, and we'll see how it separates that out for us. And so we'll give it a minute to do the work, and then we'll see what we have. Okay, it's grabbed that bumblebee, and if I move it around, it has done a very good job. So what I'll do now is I'll just hit Control-C to copy that, and I'm just going to paste that right over on the other side. So Control-V, we can put it in here, and then suddenly, you know, you might want to see whether it looks appropriate. Sometimes if the shading and shadows don't line up, it's not going to work perfectly, but it looks pretty good in this case. But so how could we take this even farther? Maybe I want to have a little bit more depth here, and maybe I want another bee even behind this flower. So I could again use the magic grab on this folder. Now there's no way to push this bee or a different bee behind the flower right now, because remember, it's part of that background photo. But we know we can come in here and we can use the background, we can use the magic grab tool on this as well. So come in here, again, we're going to use this magic grab. We're going to grab this flower here. So yes, we'll just click right on it. We're going to grab it. We're going to pull that up to its own layer. Now it's not pulling the flower stem here. It's just pulling the flower itself. But I don't think we're going to have to worry about that, because if we replace something up here, it's not going to matter if we miss those leaves and stuff. But again, we could have used that brush option if we needed it. So now what it's done is it's pulled the flower up to its own layer. So let me just click out of this for a second and come under this position menu just so I can see my different layers, because I do want this bee in front of the flower. But what I'm going to do then is I'm going to just take this layer here. I'm going to duplicate it. So now I actually have a second copy of the bee, and then we'll come in here and we'll actually flip this one here. So we'll flip it around horizontally, and then we're going to make him smaller because we're going to put him in the background, so we might fool around with the orientation and a few other things. He's going to go behind this flower now, and now of course with something like this, you're going to have more depth of field as we move away from the camera. We see how it gets softer in the background, so we're going to have to blur him because he's not going to look correct if we leave him like this. But if we come in here again under the edit options, and we'll find this blur option this time, and we're going to do the whole image, and we're just going to blur him so he looks like more in a background element where he's sort of out of focus. And so now suddenly we've taken this original image, which was just the flower here, would this be, and then suddenly we've recomposed it, we've added a background element. So these are the cool things you can do taking advantage of this magic grab tool, working on just one photo or sometimes on multiple photos together, combining different elements. Hey, this is Greg. Please excuse this brief interruption. We'll get right back to your video, but I just wanted to jump on here real quick and tell you that I do have a new course on mastering special effects and animation in Canva for anyone looking to take their Canva design game to the next level. This course is the culmination from teaching Canva to tens of thousands of students all over the world, and in this course I'm going to demystify the process of creating custom frames. People always explain it as being this really hard thing. No, it's actually really easy. I'm going to show you just how easy it is in this course. I'll teach you how to create custom frames of all sorts. I'll teach you how to create custom textures and overlays, and then we'll learn how to combine these things about animation. We'll learn about all the animation tools in Canva and how to get the most out of them, and then we'll learn how to couple Canva with another free tool that's really going to let you push all your designs beyond the limits of Canva. So if any of this sounds like it might be of interest to you, I'll put those details down below in the video description below. You can check it out at your convenience. Again, sorry for the interruption, and I'll send you back to what you were watching. Let's just look at a few more ways we can do some cool things and score some easy wins with this magic grab tool. So now I have this picture of this eagle. I'm just going to go ahead and run the magic grab tool on this picture here. So we see by default it only finds the eagle. I want to actually find this other part, this perch he's on as well. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the brush tool. And I could have selected the eagle, so let's just show you how you can do them both in concert. So we'll click this one, then we'll come over to the brush tool. So now I'm adding to the selection I already have. So now I'll also come in and add this portion of the photo here. So just make sure we get the whole thing he's sitting on there. We're gonna go ahead and grab, and hopefully that'll pull that whole thing up onto its own layer. Okay, so let's see what it's done. It's done a pretty good job. It's put some plants in the background. I could try to get rid of those, but I don't mind that so much. But what I do want is I want him facing into the frame here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and flip this. So if I come down here and I find that flip option right here, this flip option, we're going to flip this horizontally just so he's looking more back into frame. And then we'll put him right here. And then another way you can score an easy win with this magic grab tool is now we're just going to add sort of a rectangle here. So I'm going to take this rectangle here. We're going to drag it across here. Let me just come in and grab a color from the photo itself. And so I'm not seeing the color I want. So I want to actually use the color picker, maybe to get that orange color from his beak. So I'll come in here and we'll grab that color just to update that. That's fine. But then what we're going to do is now that we have the eagle on its own layer, I can use my keyboard shortcuts just to drop this behind. Maybe we'll lower down the opacity a bit like this. And then we'll add some text here. And then the text itself, let's just, well, actually, let's go back here. I want just this text here, just add in a heading, a simple heading. So maybe we'll type out bald eagle or whatever. So bald eagle, not too worried about capitalization or any of that at this point. This is just showing you, for example, you can come in here and suddenly now, because you have the subject separated from its background, you can come in here and you can go into your position menu. You can start to fool around with actually putting things behind your main subject just to give your design a little bit more depth. So I still see people doing this sort of thing all the time where they come in here and they separate the background from the subject, and then suddenly you can put text behind the subject, in between the subject and the background. It just adds a little bit more depth to your design. It's just another cool way you can take advantage of this magic grab feature and get a cool look. So something like that, but there are lots of different ways you can use this. We're not going to try to make it perfect, so I'll just get rid of this for now. Okay, so that's one way. The other thing you can do is that now that you have your subject and your background on different layers, now you can add some animation and you can animate these two different layers separately. So if you wanted to do something like a parallax effect, you could do that. So let's just go ahead and run something like that on this. So what I might do is click on the eagle itself, come under the animate options, and then I'll sort of use this breathe option just to make him get a little bit bigger here, size a little bit bigger. There are different animation options you can experiment with, but I'm going to make him a little bigger. I might make him a little bit more central for this example, something like this. And so we're using this breathe option here. Again, again, we can control the rate and the scale down here. So maybe something that's not too subtle. So I'm going to take the scale down a fair bit. And then we're going to go to our background and we'll do the same thing. We're going to do the breathe option, but this time we're going to have it pull in. So it's going to get smaller. And so then I might actually make this a little bit bigger since it's scaling in. So now just taking a look at this example, if I run this example now, we can say we have the eagle scaling outward, the background scaling inward. So it is that cool parallax effect. Let me just drag the timeline back a minute. We'll see that one more time. And again, I could come in here, I could change the speed, I could change the duration. So there are all sorts of different things you can do, but the takeaway is just that now that we have these on different levels, different layers, we can animate them independently. So it just does give you more flexibility, more freedom. So just another cool way we can take advantage of this Magic Grab tool. Okay, I think I've shown you some of the cool ways this Magic Grab tool can be a nice tool. You can do some cool things with it, but I don't think this tutorial would be complete if I didn't talk about some of the shortcomings, because I don't want you to think this tool is going to work perfect every time. And one thing I try to do on this channel is keep it honest. I'm always going to give you my honest assessment of things. So let's look at some of the shortcomings of this tool. The big shortcoming is it's just not always going to do a perfect job. So let's come in and look at this picture here. So if we look at this picture here with this gentleman here, let's see what happens if we try to run sort of the same Magic Grab tool on this subject here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on the photo. We're going to click on edit. We're going to do Magic Grab, and we can see it selects a couple different subjects, but we're interested in the gentleman here. So we're going to go ahead and grab him. We're going to let it run on this subject, and then we're going to see, we can see behind it, there's a person right behind him. There's a very complicated background. So anytime you're in a situation like this where you have a more complicated background, you are sometimes going to get bad results. So it did a pretty good job of selecting the gentleman. So we could take him and we could move him to a different background, a different design, so it might still be useful. But again, we could just use the sort of background eraser for that. If we actually look what happened behind him, you can see it did a pretty horrible job. It wasn't able to come in here and sort of recreate those pixels. And that's something where if you've used something like Photoshop and the generative fill in Photoshop, there is AI technology and other software that at this point does a much better job when it comes to replacing pixels like this in an image. That is something that the Canva AI still struggles with. So does a nice job on some photos, but whenever you start to get on more complicated backgrounds, it's going to mess up and it's not always going to be able to fill in those background pixels. Now, it can even struggle on photos with simpler backgrounds. This lady here, this is a relatively simple background. I would think that it would be able to come in here and run the background eraser on this, but we'll see if I go ahead under here and we select this subject here and we go edit and we go and run the Magic Grab on this. We'll grab her and then we'll see what kind of result it does. So I'll go ahead and click grab. We'll let it run on this subject here, and we'll see that even with a simple subject here, it's not gonna do a good job. So I'll give it a second to run. Okay, so it's finished running, and if I move her here, you can see that it really just came in here and it created this seam. It doesn't have a seamless background, so Canva sometimes struggles with replacing background pixels and making a seamless background, even when you have simple subjects. So it definitely struggles with complex subjects. Simple subjects, you're going to have better luck, but it's not always going to work. So I could come in here and try to come in with ways to fill this in with the Magic Eraser, but then I'm starting to spend a lot of time, and there is a point where you should look to maybe Photoshop, Photopea, some of those other tools. If you're just in Canva and you're banging your head trying to get something to work, it's usually not going to go well for you if you really try to force something when it's not working. So again, there are some limitations to this tool. Let me show you another area and another set of conditions where this Magic Grab tool is just not going to work very well. So the problem with this image is that Canva and the Canva AI is not good at this point handling areas with shadow. So you can cut out a subject, but then if she has a cast shadow or shadow underneath her, it's not going to do a good job with shadow. And with this instance right here, like look at the shadow that's caused based on the lighting underneath this little chair here. If we go to move that, can we get it to do something about that shadow area? Well, let's try it. Let's come in here. Again, we'll use this edit menu. We're going to use this Magic Grab tool. We're going to attempt to move this chair maybe somewhere else in this picture here, but let's see what the problem's going to be. So it's going to go ahead. It's going to run that here. So I'll click on that. I'll click on grab. We're grabbing this chair here, but then we're going to see, and we can see already, it hasn't selected the shadow area. It's really just selected the chair itself. It hasn't picked up all that shadow area. So we're going to go ahead and let it run, but then we're going to see what the problem is. So it's going ahead and run now, and the problem is that shadow area stays below the couch instead of moving with it. So suddenly if I put something here, it's just not going to look natural because it's not matching the other lighting scenarios, the other lighting in this scene. Okay, and I've experimented around with using that brush option that we have to try to brush below and beyond the chair, and it still tends to sort of snap into the chair. So this is just something where this tool is going to hopefully improve over time, but right now it's not good with shadow areas. So again, not going to work great on complex subjects. Sometimes even simple subjects it's going to struggle with, and it's not going to do well with shadow areas. But we saw there were lots of examples in this tutorial where it does work well, so you just going to have to experiment around, get a feel for when this tool works, when it doesn't work, and you can still do some really cool things with this Magic Grab tool inside of Canva. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. I hope this inspires you to go play with that Magic Grab tool and see some of the cool things you can create. Now, of course, you can like and subscribe below if you like content like this and you want to follow this channel. I also have an email newsletter, and that is the really best way for me to keep you up to date with all the latest things happening with Canva. So if you want to subscribe to that, I will pin it in the top pin comment here below. And also anybody subscribes to my channel also has access to a lot of freebies, so you can subscribe. You can check out the freebies, grab anything that might be of interest to you. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully I will see you soon.